It all began with a single, thin pencil line on a crisp, white sheet of paper. No flashing screens, no CAD software. Just a hand sketch that didn't even look like a laptop at first glance. More like a whisper of an idea. The goal was daring. To create a machine so slim, so light, and yet so powerful that it would feel like carrying an idea itself. In a quiet design lab, far away from the noise of the city, a small team gathered around that paper. They weren't just engineers, they were dreamers. Every one of them carried notebooks filled with scribbles, measurements, and questions no one had yet answered. How do you fit the strength of a workstation into something that slips into a backpack without a sound? How do you make it light without making it fragile? How do you give it muscle without stealing its elegance? One designer ran his fingers along the edge of the sketch. "It has to feel like it's floating," he said. Another replied, "Then it can't just be thin. It has to be alive when you open it." That was the spark. From that day, the project had a heartbeat. They called it Slim 5, not just for its shape, but for the 5 guiding principles they wrote on the whiteboard in bold marker. Lightness, strength, power, endurance, beauty. They tested over 50 different materials for the outer shell. Metals, polymers, carbon blends, before landing on an aluminum-magnesium alloy that felt cold to the touch, yet weighed almost nothing. It was the kind of material you'd expect on aircraft, not laptops. Every time they picked it up, it whispered, "Yes, I'm ready to fly." Weeks turned into months, and the lab filled with half-built prototypes. Some bent under pressure, others overheated, but the team kept pushing. Each failed attempt wasn't a setback. It was a lesson, a breadcrumb leading to something better. They worked late into the night, fueled by coffee, instant noodles, and that unshakable vision of a laptop that didn't just work. It inspired. Finally, there was one prototype that made the room go silent. It was impossibly thin, yet when they lifted it, it felt solid. The hinge opened with a soft resistance, smooth as a luxury watch, and when the screen lit up, there was a brightness that felt like looking into the future. But the journey had only begun. They had built the body. Now they had to give it a soul. When the shell was ready, the real challenge began. Deciding what would live inside it. You can build the most beautiful frame in the world, but if the heart and brain inside aren't right, it's just an empty body. The team knew this machine had to think fast, work hard, and never complain. That meant a processor that could handle anything from streaming 4K movies to editing heavy design files without breaking a sweat. But power comes with heat, and heat is the silent enemy of slim machines. One engineer leaned back in his chair, tapping a pencil against the desk. "We can't just stuff a fast chip inside," he said. "We need to teach it how to breathe." That's when the airflow project began. They redesigned the cooling system from scratch. Smaller, faster fans, hidden vents that wouldn't spoil the slim design, and a heat pipe system that guided warmth away like water running through a hidden channel. They tested it with simulations, then built a tiny clear prototype so they could actually watch the air move. The processor chosen was no ordinary one. It was a brain trained for multitasking. Paired with high-speed memory, it could leap between apps in milliseconds. The team joked that it was like putting the reflexes of a race car driver into the mind of a chess champion. But performance wasn't enough. The Slim 5 had to be clever, adapting itself to whatever the user was doing. Working late in a quiet library, it would stay cool and whisper quiet. Editing a large video, it would unleash full power without hesitation. This dynamic balance became its personality. Calm when needed, fierce when required. Then came the soul, the display. They knew that the first thing anyone would fall in love with was the screen. They tested dozens of panels, each with a slightly different brightness, color range, and viewing angle. They wanted colors that didn't just show reality, but celebrated it. Eventually, they found one that made every image look alive. Blues deeper than oceans, reds warmer than sunsets, and whites that didn't burn the eyes. To protect it, They gave it toughened glass, smooth to the touch, and edge to edge, so it felt like looking through a window rather than at a screen. The hinge was tuned to the gram, so you could lift the lid with one finger. A small detail, but one that makes you feel connected to the device instantly. By the time the team put everything together, the heart, the brain, and the soul, the Slim 5 wasn't just a tool. It was a companion waiting to meet its first user. And somewhere deep inside, in that magnesium shell, it was ready to prove itself. But to truly earn its name, it still had to pass a set of trials so extreme that most machines would never survive. The room was silent, except for the ticking of a wall clock. On the table lay the first fully assembled Slim 5, gleaming under the white lab lights. It looked ready for the world, but looks meant nothing here. This was the stage where machines were pushed to their breaking point, where weak designs didn't just fail, they shattered. The lead tester, a man with decades of experience in breaking things for a living, put on his gloves. "All right," he said with a grin. "Let's see what you're made of." The first trial was the drop test. From waist height, the Slim 5 was let go onto a hard surface. The sound made the whole team flinch. They rushed over. The body was intact, hinge smooth, screen unbroken. Not even a scratch on the alloy surface. One designer smiled, but the tester didn't. That was the warm-up. Next came the hinge endurance test. In the real world, people open and close their laptops hundreds of times a week without thinking. In the lab, the Slim 5's hinge would be opened and shut 20,000 times by a machine in a single day. After hours of creaking metal and whirring motors, the hinge still moved with that same smooth resistance. Then came the heat chamber. Inside a sealed room, the Slim 5 was exposed to blistering temperatures that felt like the inside of a parked car under the summer sun. Then, without warning, it was shifted into near-freezing conditions, as if it had been left on a snowy mountain lodge table. The magnesium body stayed steady, the screen didn't warp, and the system booted instantly every time. The team then moved to the spill test. A small amount of water was dripped over the keyboard, simulating the nightmare of a morning coffee accident. Tiny channels inside the body guided the liquid safely away from the critical parts, and the laptop kept running like nothing had happened. But the harshest trial wasn't in the lab. It was the real-world test. One prototype was handed to a travel photographer known for working in unpredictable places. Sandy beaches, rainy streets, bumpy bus rides. For weeks, he carried it across cities and remote landscapes, uploading massive photo files, editing on the go, charging it from random outlets in tiny cafes. When he returned it, the Slim 5 looked almost as good as the day it left. The keys were still sharp, the battery still strong, and not once had it failed to turn on. "It doesn't complain," the photographer said simply. "It just works." Back in the lab, the team knew this wasn't luck. It was the result of every choice they had made since that first pencil sketch. The Slim 5 had survived the trials,